And I'll call on Deputy Clare Daly. Sharing time, I understand, with Deputy Finney McGrath.
That's right. Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. And I must say I appreciate the Minister's motivation in moving the legislation, and I pass no judgment on the families concerned, but I do think that it raises a number of maybe ethical and issues of social policy that I'd like to maybe briefly explore. First of all, I would say, and all the deputies would agree, that all of us would know people who maybe are not able to have children of their own, who would desperately like to give a loving home and to be a parent and be a good adopted parent. And we hear that viewpoint many times, and I appreciate and know people in that circumstance. But paramount to all of this, we have to look at this from the viewpoint of the child, not the prospective parent. And you know, it is about, and adoption should be about, providing homes for children, not providing children for parents. And to be quite honest, the international adoption market, and I don't use that word lightly, has become a little bit of a vehicle of providing children for parents. And in essence, there are unscrupulous characters out there who are exploiting the desperation of genuine people to have a child of their own and raise their own child, and doing that to profit from, to the detriment of the natural parents, and particularly to the detriment of the children involved. And I think too much in this country we look at the interests of the adopted parents in Ireland and not enough on the children who are being taken from their own countries. And again, I say that in no way in a derogatory manner to the couples involved in this scenario, but we have to pose the question is, will we continue to change the law and write amendments for other groups of people who want to adopt from non-Hague countries? I mean, this country took long enough to sign up to Hague to begin with, and what's the point in signing up to it if we're going to continue to make exceptions? And I think we have to be very, very careful in that regard. It took us about 17 years to ratify the agreement in the first place. We were one of the last significant receiving countries to sign up, and I think that's important because the ratification of the Hague Convention means that the figures of potential adopted children in those countries plummets. That was the example in China, where the numbers of children available for adoption dropped. So why is that the case? Because obviously some of these children were never really, if you like, legitimately available for adoption. There were other reasons and interests behind them. So stricter regulation is critically important in this regard, and I think we have to take that viewpoint. I think it's slightly ironic that there is a justifiable outcry about the fact that thousands of children were exported from Ireland, sometimes illegally, in the 50s and 60s to end up in America. If you like, the children we're talking about now in these other countries are the Irish children of past generations, and while we would have wanted other people to stand up for the rights of those people, both at home in America, we have to very much see ourselves in that regard. And quite often it's the social conditions in those countries that fuel an illegality. I mean, it's very interesting that in Ireland, you know, 97% of children born to non-marital parents used to be adopted, and then the lone parent allowance was introduced in 1972 and the situation normalised completely. There are very worrying trends in countries like America of people unscrupulously adopting children, of the international adoption scene, if you like, being quite unregulated, and many different loopholes, and tens of thousands of children in America being adopted into America but ending up not in the homes of the people who adopted them, not proper checks on those families as well, and a lot of lack of regulation and links to trafficking are very important. There's much testimony of children in countries like Ethiopia and so on who are living with their parents, and unscrupulous rogue alleged adoption agencies ending up in the village sort of conning their parents that they were going to end up being educated in the West, and those children ended up being adopted unlawfully. So we have to be very careful, and there is a difference in the approach. I find that, you know, in many ways, fair play, the Minister has rushed through this the last day of the Dáil, But what about all the people who are out there who are waiting to claim their identity from Ireland? You know, time is not on their side either, and it is running out, and we need that issue addressed with. I think if we are widening the market for prospective adoptive parents, we have to be very, very careful about the regulations there, and everything should be done from the standpoint of the child. And I think there is a bit of an imbalance in an Irish context when we discuss these issues, which is why I'm making this point now. I'm not opposing the legislation, but we need to be very careful, and the deputies who are strongly lobbying on this side of the argument need to be particularly careful, in my opinion.